Right, and that is the focus of the center of attention today. That is the KICC 28th of May, the date with the IEBC for the presidential aspirants as they go to submit their papers. And we continue with our extensive coverage of this particular event right now. Of course, the latest news as we are waiting to see Raila Amolo Odinga present his papers there. He is at the All Saints Cathedral. Abdul Badida, on the other hand, has been given a 4 p.m. deadline to submit his papers. He had a little bit of a problem there with right. We want to bring in Bichachi Mark. And Mark, I guess we'll start with the update on Dida. He has a 4 p.m. deadline to submit certified copies of his degree and self-declaration form that has been that has been verified by a commissioner of oaths. Is the 4 p.m. deadline realistic for him?
Getting a commissioner of oaths shouldn't be too difficult for him because it's just basically a lawyer with his stamp. But the issue of certified copies of his degree from the university, that's going to be tricky because you need it certified by the university, I would imagine. So it's going to be tricky for him, 4 p.m. But I also imagine since he ran last time, he has copies of the same. So let's see how it goes. Let's hopefully he can get the copies of what he did in the last election, then he can use that.
So hopefully he can go back to the firm because of course he said that he has some experience on that as well. I understand we want to cross over to Sam Gituko as well, who is at the KICC. Sam, you are standing by there as well. What is the atmosphere like? What is going on now?
Right, Raburu, yes, we are still waiting for the running, the candidate that is a presidential aspirant for the National Super Alliance, Raila Odinga, to make his way to the KICC. But as you said, yes, he's still at the All Saints Cathedral, worshipping before he can make his way. But the information that we have is that as soon as he leaves the church, he will be heading to City Hall, where we'll have some moment to go and change his clothes. We understand, but we haven't confirmed that. We'll be expecting to see if that is essentially what will happen. But I've spoken to some IEBC officials and they have told me that the revised schedule shows that Raila Odinga should be making his way at 11 o'clock, and right now it's 11 o'clock, so he's if he comes through at this time, then he is on time, but if he doesn't, then he'll be just a few moments late. But the expectation is that he'll be coming here because the initial program that had been released for the initial 8 candidates, it had indicated that he was going to get here at 11:45. So we don't know whether he is working with 11:45 or he is working with 11 o'clock as the time that the IEBC officials have as of now. But this is a very serious moment, if I may put it so, because aside from the supporters that we have seen a few moments ago outside the KICC next to the City Hall entrance, there are quite a number of people who are here also monitoring this situation. From up there we have several media houses getting to mount their cameras to monitor the situation as Raila Odinga makes his way. And one might ask, why is there so much interest compared to what has happened to the initial 2 presidential aspirants who have come here to be declared as candidates? But of course it is clear, it's out there, but that there are those who are considered to be the front runners. Of course, we will try to give the fair coverage so that at least the Kenyans have the opportunity to make their decision. But of course, being a politician who has been on it, this is his 4th time trying to contest for the presidency, hoping that he will make it this time. So he is a different candidate by that respect, bearing in mind his experience, his political network, and of course being supported by one of the main political formations, that is the National Super Alliance. But currently inside the building there's not much of activity because understandably the IBC officials can only begin to process the papers of Raila Odinga as soon as he gets here. So for now they're still waiting for the candidate to arrive, for the aspirants to arrive rather, so that they can get to peruse his documents and see whether he is fit to run for the presidency, being the formality that has to be taken through. As I said earlier in the morning, that so far the candidates have had, the IBC officials have had about 18 days looking at the papers of the different presidential aspirants. So today at the moment is just to verify those documentation. And so as you can see from your screens is that Raila Odinga is leaving the All Saints Cathedral, so shortly he'll be making his move towards the City Hall. Of course he leaves through Kenyatta Avenue, so he'll get a moment there to take a turn and get to Kenyatta Avenue, then take the roundabout at the Kenyatta Avenue and Uhuru Highway Junction, and then he will make his way through to City Hall, following the City Hall way, of course, through Parliament Road. So he'll be getting the moment to come and get to enter into the City Hall, as we had been told, but we'll be waiting to see whether that is the situation, because again, from church he needs to pick his documentation and put it in place, so we'll be expecting to see how that pans out. But as I said, it's a moment that the supporters have been waiting for. As we spoke to them, they are expressing their confidence that this is the time that they will get to clinch the presidency. But of course, as it stands right now, the 10 presidential aspirants are just that, presidential aspirants. And when they become candidates, when they are nominated and issued with the nomination certificate by IEBC, then they are free to proceed on to start the process of getting to campaign across the country to convince Kenyans that their agenda is the best that they can choose come August the 8th, when the electorate will be going to choose their president will be managing their affairs for 5 years. But for now, Raburu, I think we just monitor the situation as Raila Odinga leaves the City Hall. As soon as he gets closer, or rather as Raila Odinga leaves Alton's Cathedral, as soon as he gets closer here, we'll be sure to give you the link as it will be. But of course, right now, just a movement here at KICC, some of the cars getting to come through here, probably to pick and drop some of the officials. Of course, you can see there, that is James Orengo, the Senator for Siaya. Let's try and see if we can talk to you, Senator. You're live on Citizen TV, and good morning. First of all, maybe just as you go in, how soon should you expect the presidential aspirant Raila Odinga?
It'll come at about 11:30, quarter to 12. Yeah.
Why so late? Because we had been given an indication that he should have been here at 11 o'clock.
We are going in accordance with the time that we're given.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. That is Senator James Orengo, one of the supporters, a very key supporter of the National Super Alliance, and of course a member of ODM, and the Senator for Siaya County. Of course, he's defending his seat. Let's see if we can talk to the gubernatorial aspirant for Kisumu County, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. Professor, you're live on Citizen TV. Maybe we can have a word with you. What is the expectation as Raila Odinga prepares to get to KICC?
Well, this is the beginning of an important journey today with the KICC. This is a formal requirement for the presidential candidates to submit their papers.
Right.
And Raila's session for submitting his papers today. So we have come to escort him, support him, and make sure that everything goes well. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. And Karibu. Right. That has been Senator for Kisumu County. Of course, is running to be the governor of Kisumu County on ODM ticket. Of course, indicating that this is just a formality situation that IEBC has to confirm the presidential aspirant. Of course, that may not be the true process in terms of law. It is the moment that IEBC has to verify the documentation, but the National Super Alliance feels confident that this is just a confirmation process. We'll wait to see if that is the case, if Raila Odinga will have had all his papers, all his documentation ready for presentation and clearance. But for now, Raburu, I think we hand it back to you so that you wait for the presidential candidate. But before I let you go, my cameraman is telling me to highlight the situation, the security system that is here, just to ensure that the matters the presidential nomination are sure that the situation of security has been taken care of. Of course, it's not every day that you see police officers lining up here at the KICC, but today being the day that it is, then the situation is different. Security officers here to ensure that there is no interruption of the proceedings here, but essentially all the supporters of the presidential candidates have been kept outside this compound to ensure that they do not get an opportunity to interfere in the situation as it continues. But Raburu, I think this is the moment that we hand it back to you so that you can proceed on to tell us what you are seeing as we continue to wait for the arrival of Raila Odinga and his entourage into the area between City Hall and the KICC, and eventually he'll be making his way, as we have been told by Senator James Orengo, that he'll be getting to the KICC at 11:30, which is his time to come and present his documentation. Raburu?
Thank you very much, Sam. Just to answer the question, what we were seeing at that point was you. I want to hand over to the Queen of politics.
Thank you.
Anki, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning.
What an exciting day, right?
Exactly. Quite an exciting day for some and hopefully for Dida later on.
I know that certainly must have been disappointing for him. And you know, for everybody watching, this is really when you realize this election is coming, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like it or not, in a few days we're going to be at the polls, under about 70 days or so. So it's an exciting time to see candidates go in and present these papers. It's kind of like a coming to God session, you know?
Yes.
Because anything could happen, as we saw with Abdul Dida.
So of course, it's going to be interesting. We're going to continue our coverage. You're going to be in the able hands of Auntie Guta. So we'll hand over right to you, Anne.
Thanks very much, Willis, for your coverage this morning. And of course, as you've heard from our reporter, Sam Gituku, our eyes are peeled at 3 locations. We are live for you at the All Saints Cathedral, where any moment now we are expecting NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga to be making his way all the way down to our second location of the day, which is City Hall, where he's expected to be meeting with, of course, the Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant, making a quick change, verifying everything is in place before he then makes his way to the third location where all eyes are peeled today, of course, which is the KICC, where IEBC officials will be awaiting him in order to verify those documents that he will be presenting. My guest this hour, Mark Bichachi, he's a political analyst joining us for commentary and analysis, and ODM Elections Director Junet Mohammed. And you're all welcome to the program this morning. Junet, let me begin with you, because I know you had every intention to be accompanying the former Prime Minister to this date with IEBC, but instead you made a date with us, and we thank you for it. Just walk us through your expectations. Oh, I see you do not have your mic on yet. Okay, we'll come to you very shortly. Mark, tell me your expectations of this day. Certainly it is an exciting moment for all of us who are watching this presidential hopefuls, you know, very humbly presenting themselves before IEBC. What are your thoughts on this process and its import on the entire election process?
The process is, it should actually go pretty straightforward for a lot of the candidates, seeing that they've done this before in 2013. What's going to be interesting, and as has been exhibited by Dida, is that if you get something very small wrong, it could affect your chances of running in this particular election. The second thing that's very critical to watch is we need to make sure that the people who are running have their papers and their documentations in place, because what could happen is if the IEBC misses something in this vetting process, then a few months down the line someone can go to court and actually stop the election. So it's an important process. It's a formality, yes, but it's a very important formality, and it can affect the election in very significant ways.
Yeah, you know, you're absolutely right. Though of course we expect to see some sort of well, I wouldn't say leniency, but sort of understanding, if you like, from IEBC, given how, you know, important this process is to the general election. And, you know, you don't want to see anybody disqualified over technicalities. But you've rightly pointed out that could very well be the case. Could you talk to us a little bit about the papers that these aspirants will be presenting today?
All right. There are a few papers that they need. Of course, interestingly enough, national identification. They need to prove that they're not citizens of any other country. Bank accounts, you know, they need to show that they don't have foreign bank accounts, not holding public office 6 months prior to the election. So there are those things, and then you've got the 48,000 signatures minimum that you need from a majority, 2,000 from a majority of the counties, which have to be from your political party, or if you're an independent, from people who are not party affiliated and have not approved someone else. So that process is going to be interesting, seeing that the IEBC itself was late in releasing who is in which political party. So most Kenyans don't even know which parties they belong to officially. Right. So that's going to be interesting. Some of the parties will mitigate against that by having more than the 48,000, having 120,000, just to make sure that you're on the safe side. But this is a formality, but it's a very important formality.
A very important formality.
A very important formality.
Let me just draw the attention of our viewers. Of course, the pictures on your screen right now, you're watching live the Raila Odinga's convoy. He is the NASA NASA flag bearer as he makes his way to City Hall. We're expecting him to take a final look at his papers, make sure everything is in order, confer with his team before then he does end up at KICC. And you can see supporters of the former Prime Minister lining the roads. They are lining them all the way to KICC. Of course, very expectant moments for them, hoping to catch a glimpse of Odinga before he makes his way to KICC. Jeanette Mohammed now able to speak to us, and good morning to you. I beg your pardon for that. As I mentioned earlier, you were supposed to be part of this team that was going to be accompanying the former Prime Minister. Give us the perspective of leaders such as yourself when you're accompanying your flag bearer. What is going on? What are the kind of conversations that you can expect to be taking place in the convoy?
Thank you, Anne. Today I sacrificed my time to accompany my party leader and the next president of the Republic of Kenya.
Oh dear.
To present his papers at KICC, because I wanted to share with Kenyans through your channel with how we feel as a party and how we feel as people who have high expectations on 8th of August.
Right.
This is a great moment for us, and as a party, ODM, and as a coalition of NASA. This is the making of the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. This is a momentous, day for us, which history is being made, and we came a long way as a coalition. You remember the negotiations, you remember the intrigues, you remember the issues, who should be the flag bearer. But I can authoritatively say that today is the day when I am sure that my party leader is the presidential candidate of the coalition called NASA, the National Super Alliance. And as a party, I am proud because this is the third time we are producing a presidential candidate as a party. We produced in 2007, in 2013, and now 2017. That tells you is a party that has stood the test of time. No any other party has participated in 3 consecutive elections as ODM.
Right, and that's absolutely true. It must be a moment of pride, certainly, for yourself and for party supporters. I do want to get, though, just, a sneak peek into what it is you, as, political leaders, tell your flag bearer at a time like this. What kind of conversations do you expect to be taking place in his car and in the convoy?
I was with him up to last evening, almost midnight, myself, in preparation for this event today. And he was in a very high mood and upbeat. And we were discussing that now the journey begins today. When he presents his papers and formally cleared by IEBC is when now the real business begins. Before we were just, preparations. And you will see events coming up from today at Jacaranda grounds up to 9th of August, when our tallying system will tell us who is the presidential, who will be the president-elect by whichever result that comes. So we are in very high mood. We are in a very high spirit, and he's confident that this is his moment, and he's confident, and he was telling us that this is his election.
Wow, and what gives him that confidence? It being the 3rd time, and with the challenges that you've, enumerated leading up to the point where the coalition actually agreed on him, what gives NASA this very strong confidence that this could be the moment that sets Raila Odinga firm on a course to be president?
See, and you look at what's happening in our country.
Oh, sorry, let me beg your pardon a little bit, Jinda, because you can see Raila Odinga has arrived at KICC. We'll return to our conversation. Sam Gituku is live for us at KICC. Let him bring us a little bit of coverage, and we'll return to our conversation shortly.
Right, yes, and as you said, the presidential aspirant for the National Super Alliance, Raila Odinga, is making his way into the KICC, and here is a team of his supporters waiting to receive him, of course led by Senator James Orengo and Senator Professor Nyang'nyong'o, who are here as key members of the Orange Democratic Movement. And so there is a car over there coming. We're expecting that is the car that is carrying, or rather riding, the candidate, Raila Odinga. Yes, so he's coming through, of course, accompanied by several of his supporters leading the way for him. And of course, this being a very auspicious moment especially for the National Super Alliance, the moment that they have been waiting for, the confirmation, the clearance and confirmation of their candidate of the aspirants to be the IEBC candidate, as it was, to contest for the presidency come August the 8th. So we'll be expecting to hear from him, of course. That is our role here. Our cameramen getting every view of this moment so that we can see as soon as he alights from his car, we will be expecting to hear from him, and of course his initial reaction and feeling that he has as this moment goes. So there he is. The car shortly will be opened so that he can walk out and go up the steps of the KICC. And there we go. And well, he is having his moment. And they open the window, then they open the door. Of course, his wife is here, Ida Odinga, accompanying him to this very important moment. And there he is, the presidential aspirant for the National Super Alliance. Let's try talk to him as he goes through. So here he is. Let's try and see if we can get a moment to talk to him. And he is being shielded by the security officers. Well, and it's not easy for anyone. It's not easy for anyone, bearing in mind the interest that this has attracted. So ours is to attempt to talk to him as he goes to the VIP room. As we go to the VIP room where he will be held for a few minutes, we'll try to view from there and see if we can talk to him. And of course, as you've seen, the interest that this has generated, even the security officers have to be alert, waiting to ensure that the aspirant is safe, as well as his supporters. His wife, Ida Odinga, he is walking up the stairs, and any moment we'll have him. Right, and so the moment he arrives here, he'll be taken through the same process as the other aspirants. He'll be taken through the registration process where he will indicate his name and to indicate why he is here. Of course, we know that he is here for the sake of filing his nomination papers so that he can be cleared. And then after filling the documentation, or rather the registration details, he will proceed on to the VIP room where he will be held for a few minutes, and then he will wait to be invited to where the commissioners will be sitting to listen and review his documentation. We're yet to find him coming up the stairs, but of course our cameras are all around to ensure that we have every view of his entourage as he steps into this facility where the presidential aspirants are being processed. And so currently, and what's happening at the gate, at the entrance, the security officers are having to deal with the situations of supporters who want to gain entry into the KICC. It's a hard task for them getting to limit access into this facility, and of course this is important to ensure that the safety of everyone has been assured. And so There is Governor Evans Kidero, the governor of Nairobi County, a key pillar in running the NASA campaign, especially in Nairobi County. So any minute we'll be expecting to see the aspirant himself getting to make his entry into the KICC form. And this is very much different, as I said, from what we saw with the other aspirants. We didn't have very large teams of supporters. We didn't have very large teams of security officials. Now this just gives you the impression of how the importance, or rather the degree that has been given to this particular aspirant. And as I said, it has everything to do with the value, the impact of the National Super Alliance in as far as reaching out to the entire country. As I said, it is one of the main political formations in Kenya, NASA versus the Jubilee Party, and so a similar situation might be expected when President Uhuru Kenyatta files his papers tomorrow. So it is the way of supporters expressing their support for their presidential aspirant for the all-important situation of presenting these nomination papers, and after that they become the presidential candidates for their party and their coalition. So we're still expecting to see the aspirant come up the stairs because they have to do that. Eventually they have to present their papers, and they have to present the papers at the hall that is just to my right. So we are here waiting for him to come, make the registration, be processed, and go into the VIP room where he will be waiting to be invited by the IEBC commissioners to have his moment of clearance and submission of the various documentation. Of course, so now on your screen is the governor of Busia, Speaker Jamong. He is an ODM governor, and he is here also to express his support for his party leader, and he makes his way into Shimba Hills Hall, where the process of clearance of candidates, or rather aspirants, is happening. Any moments now, and we'll be expecting to see the aspirant Raila Odinga on the move to come and be processed, as they enumerated the process of having to register and clear them. And currently Raila Odinga is being briefed. They are agreeing on a few issues with his 4 core principles within NASA. Of course, that session seemingly being led by James Orengo, the Senator for Siaya, and who has... Okay, hand over. Okay, all right, and as you can see, the former Prime Minister is on the move. He is making his way up the stairs, and so this has to be the moment that we've been waiting for, the entry of the presidential aspirant to where he is supposed to be making his registration process. And so just before we hand back to you, let's just see him making the registration where you have to indicate that he attended this session. And there he is, James Orengo, the Senator, Isaac Ruto, co-principal, Moses Wetangula, co-principal, Musalia Mudavadi, co-principal, and then Raila Odinga he is being ushered by the Deputy CEO of the IEBC, Betty, to indicate his documentation, or rather his registration. And so on your camera, on your screen, that is Raila Odinga writing his name, and I'll tell you what he writes. He writes Raila, he writes A, and he writes Odinga. Raila O Amolo for ODM, and then he indicates his phone number, then his email address, and then after the email address he will indicate his signature, and there it is. And he has officially registered his arrival at the KICC, and now he moves to the VIP room, where we'll try to access if we can. He is being guided to his destination, where he will be waiting for him to be called to the hall where the candidates will be being cleared. So there he is. He proceeds on to his seat. He has chosen to sit on a different seat next to his wife Ida Odinga. Earlier on, the other candidates were sitting at a seat to his left, but now he is here. We'll try and if we can get a very short moment with him. A very short moment with him, if he can tell us something. Let's just wait for him to be briefed. Let's wait for him to be briefed. Sorry. He's reviewing his documentation, which is important. We give him that time. We give him that time to peruse his documentation to ensure that everything is in order, to ensure that the copies of his certificates have been certified as it were. You remember that the Alliance for Real Change presidential aspirant by the name of Dubadida was sent back because his papers had not been certified. So this is important for the candidate, the aspirant himself, to go through the papers to ensure that everything is in order, that he is satisfied, and ensure that he is aware of what you'll be presenting to the IEBC commissioners as they get to process his application to be a candidate in the August 8th general election for the seat of presidency. And so, Anne, I think I briefly hand back to you as he produces his papers, but we'll be trying to talk to him as soon as we are able to do that. Then you will get back to us. All right. Then yes, Anne, I'll not hand back to you. I'll have to wait. We're looking at the papers here. He's satisfied with the first file. Let's see what he looks at next. That is the envelope that has his, I believe, the check that he has deposited 200,000 shillings as the nomination fee with the IEBC. This is a prerequisite consideration for them, for the aspirants to be processed to be candidates in the general election. He seems okay with that. So let's see what he picks next. And wow, there's a slip inside there. And the small envelope has passport size photographs. These are the photos that the aspirants will be presenting to the IEBC. They have his image, passport size. So these are important because it is what the IEBC will use, the image that will be used to appear on the ballot paper come the general election as they prepare the ballot papers. Right, and then those are the CDs, compact discs, and understandably they have the names of supporters. As the ODM team indicated, they have at least 62,000 signatures, so we presume that those CDs contain that data. And probably, Raila Odinga, congratulations for making it this far. You're live on Citizen TV. And first of all, we would want to get from you, what is your impression, what do you feel getting to this moment at this time?
Well, very happy to be here this morning. This is a very important occasion when we have come here to present our papers before the IEBC for nomination as candidates in the coming general elections. So this really is a very major point in this process of electioneering. As you can see, I'm accompanied by my running mates and the members of our NASA coalition, that is members of the Pentagon. So we're all here, and I'm also with my wife, Madam Ida Odinga. Yeah.
And maybe, Madam Ida, what is the feeling this morning? It's another moment that you get a moment with the IEBC to present the papers of Raila Odinga. What is the feeling in the morning?
I'm happy about this morning. He's doing the right thing, but mostly I want us to know that we are doing it for all Kenyans. Yeah, because it is the Kenyans that deserve, and we hope to please the Kenyans by doing what we are doing.
All right. Thank you so much. And Mheshimiwa Odinga, just before we let you go, it's the fourth time that you are coming to the steps of the KICC to present your nomination papers. How different is it this time round, having made an attempt the other times?
Well, this is a very defining moment. As you know, the first time we ran was basically like a practicing match. The last two times, as you know, it was a disappointment because we won and we were denied a victory. We are hoping that this time round our victory is not going to be denied again. Kenyans, I'm sure, cannot take another road victory. But you also say that it's a contest, and they will a winner or a loser, and we say that if we lose fairly, we will accept. So we are going to do our best as a NASA coalition, and we are confident that we will win this time round once again. Okay.
Right, thank you so much, and all the best. That has been Raila Odinga, the presidential aspirant for the Orange Democratic Movement, and at large the National Super Alliance, of course, indicating that he's confident that this time round it is the time that he will head to State House, of course, after the general election of August the 8th. Of course, essentially what is happening, and is that the aspirant will be here for a few minutes, and then the IEBC commissioners currently at the other hall on the other side are going through the documentation of the candidate. Let's try and see if we can speak to the running mate, Kalonzo Musyoka, but he looks a bit busy going through his documentation. Let's wait and see if we can get a chance to talk to him. Of course, and as you said, this is an important process that the aspirants have to ensure that they have everything in order. They have to ensure that all their documentation, their original certificates, the copies have been certified. And of course, Musyoka being a lawyer, you'd expect that he has put his papers in order, but what we see now, he is sorting his documentation to ensure that he is ready to move when that time comes. Of course, it is important that the running mates also are processed, and as soon as he is done, we'll try to have a word with him. We'll wait. Yeah, he's looking for his original ID card, we understand, to present to the team of commissioners who are here. And there he is, perusing his wallet, and finally he found the voter's card. He's now looking for his identity card, and he found it. And now I believe we can talk to him. If okay, in a moment he says, but he is the party leader for the Wiper Democratic Movement, the running at this time. You'll understand that initially when the list of aspirants was released by the IEBC, it had his name as the 8th presidential aspirant in terms of those who are vying on a political party, but eventually, sometimes last week on Monday, or rather early this week, if this week is this week, then early this week on Monday, the Wiper Party submitted a letter to the IEBC withdrawing his candidature, and so now he indicated that he's going to be the running mate for the ODM candidate Raila Odinga. And so why they are here, it's essentially to ensure that that happens. So currently on your screen, the other presidential, or rather the other NASA co-principals, Isaac Ruto of Chama Cha Mashinani and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya. Let's speak speak to the running mate for the National Super Alliance, Kalonzo Musyoka, from Citizen TV. You're live on Citizen TV, and congratulations for this moment. Probably, if you may move this way so that we avoid the backlight. First of all, what is your feeling this morning getting to make this milestone?
Well, we did it in 2013. This time, we trust that God will favor us with tremendous victory, and just not for ourselves, but for our country. This is the moment that this country has been waiting for, a chance to have a proper democratic election.
If you talk about the presidency, then this is the third time you're making your attempt. But if you talk about the running mate, it's the second time you're making the attempt. How different do you feel approaching this election in 2017?
A serious sense of commitment, as always. Nothing at the personal level. The passion with which I've always approached this, first of all in 2007 when I ran. And as it turned out, I really was like the person who became the nexus when our country was falling apart after the controversial 2007 general election. And because I was a gum, I thought that that was a mission that was given to me by the Almighty. Now in 2013, victory was stolen. This time we trust that we will beat Jubilee hands down, and there will be no time for rerun or anything. So the same passion, the same sense of purpose, guided only by what is in the best interest of this wonderful land called Kenya.
So how different is the strategy? Because the Jubilee Party is also watching.
I will not tell you about our strategies. Sometimes I think we talk too much and we give it to opponents. So you will be hearing from us. Yeah. First of all, let me get clearance first. You are now, I think, anticipating debate. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you so much. Okay. It has been Kalonzo Musyoka, the running mate for the National Super Alliance. Of course, he'll be deputizing Raila Odinga in the race. And as he says, he's not willing to share with us the strategy that they are going to use in this election. He feels that if he does that, then they will be giving out a lot of information to their opponents, the Jubilee Party, and of course 8 other presidential contenders who are seeking to be cleared by the IEBC. So for now on, I think we have to hand it back to you so that you can proceed on to analyze other matters, but we have the live pictures of the NASA team here at the KICC, the VIP holding room, where they're expecting to be ushered in to the panel of the commissioners who will be expecting to process them as soon as they are ready to do so. And
much, Sam, for your reporting, and these, I believe, now are exclusive pictures. You can only see this on Citizen TV, right at the VIP hall where the NASA 5 are waiting for their flag bearer Raila Odinga to formally present his papers alongside Kalonzo Musyoka, who will be hopefully deputizing him should they win this August election. Thank you so much, Sam, for your reporting and the exclusivity of the pictures that you're seeing on your screen right now. Here in studio with me still, Mark Bichachi is a political analyst, and ODM Elections Director Junet Mohammed. I want to thank you for staying with us this morning. Junet, I want to return to the issue of the confidence that we have seen from NASA, and you have said even in this broadcast that this is it. This is history in the making. This is the time when we will see Raila Odinga well on his way to become President of the Republic. What gives you as NASA this sort of confidence that fourth time's a charm?
Thank you, Anne. And the writings are on the wall. We've traversed this country through all over the country, and people are ready for change. And I can see, even if you look at Raila Odinga as a person, he looks this time more ready than any other time in terms of even maturity. Even, you know, this is his time. This is, you can say it again. And if you look also at the numbers, we normally say we are 10 million strong. We have done our calculations. We know the counties we are talking about. We know where the numbers are. So I think from the look of things, if IEBC can conduct free, fair, transparent elections as is required by the law, I think we are home and dry.
And I'm going to return to where you are strong, because of course those are areas that are disputed. But before we get there, I just want to recap what the former Prime Minister said to us exclusively a few moments ago. He said that this is a defining moment, that we were denied victory before. Kenyans cannot take another time being robbed of victory, and if we lose fairly, we will accept. You know, the recurrent theme from the opposition that they were denied victory twice, I believe, is the opposition perspective, and these sentiments coming, you know, about 70 days into an election, Jeanette. What confidence do you have with IEBC that this time round, if you win, then you will win fair and square?
You see, when the Prime Minister was speaking, the way he spoke is because of what happened in 2007. You remember the kind of elections we had in 2007? We didn't have there was no clarity in the elections of 2013, you remember? And we have confidence in the electoral body, but it is the same electoral body that is required of law to do a good election. So until they prove us wrong, at the moment we have confidence in them, and we expect them to do what the law requires of them.
And what to you would be the indicators that this is an electoral commission that will deliver a credible result?
First, what's happening now, it's, you remember what happened in 2013, the issue of acquiring the election gadgets almost close to the election. We are seeing the same scenario happening now. And you could see as late as yesterday, the day before, IEBC firing their ICT director. And I hope they are in charge. I hope they are on top of things, because this election must be done in a proper manner as envisaged in the law. You remember we went to the streets to remove the former IEBC commissioners. All that were geared to reform the electoral body. And I hope lessons were learned from that exercise. And we hope that all the required gadgets will work at the election day. Failure of any gadget will be a recipe for chaos.
Wow. Let me come to you, Mark. Is that your perspective that, you know, if one gadget fails, this is going down the drain? Because there is, and you know, this is something that has been a running theme in conversation in political talk shows, is the credibility of the poll in the gadgets, or is the credibility of the poll in the institution that is running the election? What is your perspective?
I'm quite tickled by the Honorable Member of Parliament here, for a number of reasons. Number one, politicians have a disease of preaching to their own choir session after session, and believing that the choir forms the entire electorate. I think NASA needs to have a more objective look at this election, and 10 million strong, I doubt it, if I'm honest. And the reality of the matter is that elections are run by the confidence that the politicians express towards the electoral body. So the opposition has enough space and time to go into the various electoral processes and points of election to make sure they've got their agents there, to make sure that whatever data is transferred onwards and upwards onto the national level is the correct data. So there's enough by law to allow NASA to have enough gravitas to say that this election is valid. So what I would advise NASA, instead of looking at IEBC and being suspicious of it, NASA should prepare its own agents, its own party officials to protect their own vote. That's what really needs to happen. Because it's not in the systems, it's not in the people, it is in the fact that you have refereed a match well.
Right, and I imagine you would agree that it's not in the gadget as well.
Yeah, it's not in the gadget.
All right. Let's talk about the 10 million strong, Jeanette, that you've referred to, which has been the subject of controversy, of jubilation for your supporters, of comedy on the other side, you know. Where do you get this assertion that there are 10 million people today standing behind Raila Odinga?
And you see, this election is informed by what happened in the last election of 2013. There are counties that were won by Raila Odinga in the last election, and there are counties that were won by Honorable the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. The counties that were won by Raila Odinga have, at the moment, registered voters of 10,547,000. Figures don't lie, we have the numbers. And the counties that were taken by President Uhuru as strongholds have 7,500,000 and something. So we have those figures in our hands. They are in the register. So when we say we have 10 million strong, we already have 10 million registered voters in our counties that we won in the last election, which we expect to win again this election, because they still remain as they were. Nothing has changed.
Yet Mark laughs.
Yeah, because
Mark, what is tickling you?
What's tickling me is, as a strategist, I'll just like to advise your good selves. Number one, an election is not just about how many are registered; it's about how many will turn out. Number two, don't forget that the win in 2013 was not 100%. Okay, it was 70%, 60%, 52% in some places. So you can't assume just because you won a particular county that you got 100% of the votes in that county. So you've got to factor in turnout. You've got to factor in that you did not win those counties 100%. There are people there who voted for the other side. And then the third story is this. Don't forget, because of the governor system, that there are some people who are very disgruntled with ODM. Just the same way as there are people who are very disgruntled with Jubilee. So the 2013 scenario might not play out for either side like it did in the last election. In fact, Jubilee might be in a more interesting situation because they had a lot of sympathy votes in 2013. They don't have the same situation now. So it's not the same game, really.
You see, and people first have the obligation to register their people.
Right.
You know, the good strategist is running ahead of the issue. You have to register first people. That's why your registration is done. Then you have to bring out people to vote. So we will bring people out to vote at the right time. But for now, we have registered people. That's the thing.
All right, and of course that is the important first step that you must take. I want to talk a little bit about the NASA support base, the ODM support base, Jeanette. Tell me about their aspirations. Why do you believe this large population stands behind yourselves?
See, geographically, if you look at the country, Anne, the coalition that has the largest representation in the country is NASA. In this Republic of Kenya. If you go to Rift Valley, we have representation. If we look at the former, provinces and regions of the country. If we go to Nyanza, it's the bedrock of the thing. If we go to Western, the same. If we go to Northeastern, Western. So when you combine, even in Central, we have representation. Unlike Jubilee, which is majorly viewed as a two-region-based coalition. So that makes us a bit confident and comfortable that our people are across the country. So, and we have 27, last election, Raila won in 27 counties, out of 47 counties. And there was a registration that was done as recent as 3 months ago. So we have looked at those numbers, the number of people who have registered. Now our main work will be to make sure that there is a high or a huge turnout at the voting day. But in terms of registration is what is based on what we are saying about the 10 million strong.
Mark, give me, from your perspective, who are those who stand behind Raila Odinga, who of course is just very shortly going to be presenting his papers before IEBC. Talk to us about this demographic of voters. Well,
the Kenyan electorate is very interesting. I classify it into two people. There is pro-Raila and anti-Raila. Now, pro-Raila will always be with Raila, no matter what happens. Anti-Raila, however, no matter what the other side does, that is Jubilee, they just don't consider Raila as an option, and that's really where the campaigning space is for NASA. The people that have voted for Raila will continue to vote for Raila, which presents the problem of turnout. Because if you remember in 2013, in Raila's strongholds, you had some polling stations recording 70% turnout, which means 30% didn't show up for some reason or another. So the real problem that Raila has is twofold. Number one, making sure those people who usually vote for him will continue to vote for him. That means they'll actually come out and vote. The second problem is the anti-Railaism. How many people in this anti-Raila camp can he convince to come on board? That's really where the campaigning is. And if NASA is serious about this election and wants to win, then they need to just not pander to the gallery that they've played towards before and begin to move their conversation to convincing those people who are neutral and anti-Raila to come to the side of Raila. That's really where the challenge is.
Yeah, Mark, let me talk to you a little bit about the way you have classified the Kenyan voter as either being pro-Raila or anti-Raila. What do you believe it is about the former Prime Minister that makes him such a some would even say polarizing kind of leader who would elicit such strong reactions on both sides of the fence, to the point where electoral processes, at least it seems by your conclusion, are not really governed by anything much more than those who want to see him in power and those who don't?
Well, Raila is an enigmatic figure for very many reasons. You have to remember his political activity in the 1980s, the birth of the new republic in 1992 in multi-party democracy. He's run for president in 1997. You've got to consider how he brought down the mighty KANU in 2002 when he walked out and said Kibaki Tosha. Then you've got to consider that it is the battle of 2007 that brought Kenya to the brink of collapse. So what any Kenyan thinking about Raila Odinga has had an impact on them, and there are those who believe strongly that he's the Joshua, as he calls himself, and there are those who believe that he's out to settle a score, and that really is the undertone that the nation rides upon. Those who are anti-Raila believe that because of his activism and things like that, he has a grudge against certain people that he wants to balance out. That's really where the undercurrents come from. So his enigma has sort of put him in what a PR person would call a quandary, because his stature and his brand is already established. Now, getting that brand to be sellable outside of his primary constituency is what his strategists should focus their minds on. Because if that were possible, then, as they say, he can win by 9 in the morning.
Right. This of 9 in the morning, Lord help us on August the 8th when 9 in the morning comes round. Jeanette, talk to me about that. What do you think about, and let me just, sorry Jeanette, before I come to you, the pictures, of course, adjacent to our screen. I believe we are seeing now those papers being formally presented before IEBC. If that is the case, Director, you may need to guide me on this. Okay, this is an earlier on picture. All right, we want to bring you earlier on when we spoke exclusively to Raila Odinga, and then I'll be coming to you shortly, Jeanette, to talk.
Very important occasion when we have come here to present our papers before the IEBC for nomination as candidates in the coming general elections. So this really is a very major point in this process of electioneering. As you can see, I'm accompanied by my running mates and members of our NASA coalition, that is members of the Pentagon. So we're all here, and I'm also with my wife, Madam Ida Odinga. Yeah.
And maybe, Madam Ida, what is the feeling this morning? It's another moment that you get a moment with the IEBC to present the papers of Raila Odinga. What is the feeling in the morning?
I'm happy about this morning. It's doing the right thing, but mostly I want us to know that we are doing it for all Kenyans. Yeah, because it's the Kenyans that deserve, and we hope to please the Kenyan by doing what we are doing.
All right. Thank you so much. And Mheshimiwa Odinga, just before we let you go, it's the 4th time that you are coming to the steps of the KICC to present the nomination papers. How different is it this time round, having made an attempt the other times?
Well, this is a very defining moment. As you know, the first time we ran was basically like a practicing match. The last 2 times, as you know, it was a disappointment because we won and we were denied a victory. We are hoping that this time round our victory is not going to be denied again. Kenyans, I'm sure, cannot take another robbed victory. But we also say that it's a contest, and they will a winner or a loser, and we say that if we lose fairly, we will accept. So we are going to do our best as a NASA coalition, and we are confident that we will win this time round once again.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much. And
all the best. That has been Raila Odinga, the presidential aspirant for the Orange Democratic Movement.
Of course, those were pictures from earlier when Raila Odinga, who's the ODM presidential aspirant, spoke exclusively to Citizen TV. He, of course, has already presented his papers to IEBC. The pictures you can see adjacent to my image are IEBC officials now verifying the documents that Raila has already presented. Still with me in studio, Jeanette Mohammed, ODM Elections Director. Jeanette, we're just going to talk over these pictures that we're seeing, and as you heard earlier from Mark, his assertion is that, you know, the Kenyan voter is largely just classified, you know, in two ways. He's either pro-Raila or anti-Raila, and he spoke particularly on the anti-Raila type of voting bloc, if you like, who, as he mentioned, may be concerned that this may be a bit of a grudge match, that the opposition leader may be seeking to, you know, come down hard on his perceived opponents, or whatever the case may be. Is this, as elections director, do you view it that way from ODM in terms of the anti-Raila sentiment and what may be fueling it, and what as a party are you doing to reach out to those who did not vote for him in the last election?
And that is how that has been viewed Raila a long time ago, not anymore. If you look at the present, the people who are contesting for presidency, it is only Raila who has that historical, you know, memory and historical, you know, judgment that can be made in a proper manner, because of he participated in the affairs of this country for long enough, unlike the current leaders who are leading this country. People used to view Raila that way, that the Raila phobia, Raila mania. Now Raila has changed. Raila is the only person now who cuts across the whole country, from coastal region to Mount Kenya region to Rift Valley, all the way to the Lake Victoria region. If you look at ODM as a party, the biggest party in the country that Raila leads, it has representation all over the country. We have chairmen in Nyeri, we have chairmen in Muranga, people who can come out strongly and say we support Raila Odinga. I think Raila, considering, you know, what happened the last 5 years in this country, where we went on election on the basis of generational change, we went on election on the basis of digital and analog, and considering what has happened the last 5 years, the failures we have encountered, the problems we have encountered, I think it is time now we need to go into an election where we have to, you know, put the country ahead of everybody else. And the only person at the moment who is on the line, or who is contesting with that kind of experience, I believe, is Raila Odinga. I'm not saying that because I'm a member of ODM, not because I'm a director of elections of ODM, but I'm saying it out of my conscience. And number two, Raila has now passed the age of, you know, revenge and being vindictiveness. He's 70 and above years, he's a grandfather. He does not need to, if he worked with Moi, who detained him for 9 years, after coming out of the jail, he dissolved his party and joined KANU. See, this is a man who transcends many things that people think of him. And I think, given a chance, he will leave this country in a better footing than it is today.
Having said that, though, as elections director, what exactly is the strategy to get those who are on the other side of the fence to see things as you do?
You see, if you look at the face of even the people who are around him, we have people representing different regions. We have people from Western, we have people from Northeastern, we have people from Rift Valley, like Isaac Ruto. We had, you know, Martha Karua before she bolted out to try her luck, governor's position in Kirinyaga. And we have people from every region who may not be at the front face now, but I know who are working on this cause. And they are coming from communities that you may not expect. And I don't want to mention their names here, but they believe in this cause, and some of them might be related to the president, but they believe in Raila Odinga. So I don't want to mention names here, but this is a man who's carrying the aspirations of all Kenyans. This is a man this is the living Mandela of Kenya. I can tell you that one for free. I'm not saying this out of sycophancy or it's the belief that I have, because I want this country. Look at what President Kibaki did. He did better than this regime. And I think he achieved what he achieved because of his age and wisdom, and because of the experience he had to run a nation. We need somebody who's experienced to run this nation, even if it's for 5 years, and put it in a good pedestal, and anybody else can take over from there now.
Mark, as you listen to Jeanette in terms of strategy, I think the key thing that he's pointed out is, you know, picking leaders and getting a team that represents the face of the country. As a political strategist, what would your advice be to the opposition if they were to get what the team, or rather the other side of the political divide, to actually see things their way? What would be their messaging?
The key messaging, if they really want to take this election, would be to convince their perennial opponents, that means the guys who are afraid of a NASA presidency, to bring them to a point where they view Raila as the Mandela of the day. Now that takes a lot of branding work, it takes a lot of communication work, and it takes a lot of pulling together to make it work. Now my fear is this. My fear is we are repeating what happened in the American election. And what happened in the American election is the Democrats had a candidate that they were quote-unquote sure was going to win. But Hillary turned out to be a very boring candidate. And that's the issue. You need to capture the imagination and the emotions of the people. And one of the things that Jubilee, for whatever reason, does very, very well is capture the imaginations of people in terms of how they just do their things. Not that I'm a Jubilee supporter or a NASA supporter, but that's the place where they keep beating NASA at. Now what NASA needs to do is they need to rebrand. They need to come back and say, you know what, this is who Raila really is, this is who Kalonzo really is, and that's what needs to happen. If they don't do that, I can tell you for free, it's going to be a repeat of the same elections we've had 3 times now, where Raila is standing with certain communities and then the other communities seem to be against Raila. And what needs to happen is Raila needs to bridge the gap where he already knows, listen, Raila already knows that he has certain voting blocks behind him. The challenge is, can he brand himself, can he sell himself beyond those lines? That's where the 50+1 comes from.
All right, and the pictures again on your screen are live. You can see KICC, you just saw shortly, KICC thronged with ODM supporters, NASA supporters, and now this is inside the KICC. What is happening is the former Prime Minister, they're just getting into a change of clothes, because after this they're expected to hit the streets, campaigning, of course, greeting their supporters and getting them ready for the August polls. So they're just having a quick change of attire before we see them emerge from those doors to, of course, address crowds who have come out in their support and then hit the streets. I just want to return to you, Mark, because even in saying that, Jubilee tends to be able to capture the imagination of its supporters perhaps more than the NASA now base does. It appears that the NASA base, though, is more animated. They appear more passionate, at least visually, you know, in terms of their support for their candidate. What is the role of emotions in getting out the vote?
The key thing is this, and I'm glad you brought that out. What NASA captures is the hopes and dreams of very many Kenyans who've never seen one of their own become president or had the advantage of feeling like we own the leadership of the country. So yes, there's a lot of emotion carried over from the 70s and 80s and 90s. So NASA has that ability to capture the emotions of a people. But the issue with the emotions, if they're not directed, if they're not given a step-by-step guidance into how are we doing this, then what happens is you find a lot of people with emotions but not a lot of traction. What do I mean by not a lot of traction? If you look at 2013, these same people who had a lot of emotions came out to vote 70% instead of the 90% that we saw in Central. And that difference is clear because when you look at Jubilee's strategy, it's not just emotional, it is participatory. Okay, every time they've been asked to register voters or to go and vote and things like that, Jubilee supporters have shown up. Why? Because the strategy on Jubilee side is action oriented. On the NASA side, and I'll say this categorically, that on the NASA side, if you remove the person of Raila Odinga, then everything else falls apart. Why? Because it is the enigma, his charisma, that carries it on. So what they need to do is institutionalize that enigma, that charisma, and be able to turn it into a movement. Right now it's just an emotive thing. If they can capture that and turn it into a movement, then they may yet capture power in this country.
In 70 days, how do you do that, Jeanette?
You see, first, Anne, see, the issue of the percentage of turnout, whether it is 90 or 70 or 60, is an issue of a scientific issue, because generally elections all over the world have an average percentage of 70%. When you see somewhere every year every election is 90-95%, then there's something wrong. It's not normal. Number two, why you see they are not emotive, there are no big emotions in Jubilee side at this time, because the Jubilee people feel that they have been the expectations have not been met that they had in 2013. They expected a digital team, a team that will revolutionize the country and bring new change that is in sync with the youth, and nothing happened. So they are not feeling satisfied, they are unhappy. So, and the issue of NASA is not about the issue of feeling that one of them has not produced a president. It's about how the country is run. It's about the state of the country.
Right.
Because there are people inside there whose communities have been president. Isaac Ruto's community, they have been president for 24 years, and now they have a deputy president. It's not about whether you are. If the current president runs the country very well, you don't need to go to look for another person. You will be the right person.
Okay, hold your thoughts, gentlemen. ODM Elections Director Jeanette Mohammed with us this morning, and Mark Bichachi, he is a political analyst and strategist. Of course, the pictures you're seeing again live from KICC. We're waiting to see Raila Odinga, who is the ODM presidential aspirant, very shortly. He's already presented his papers. They're undergoing verification by the IEBC officials. We're taking a short break. We're back with more analysis after this.